Oh, Valerie Bond, yes, I've come a long way down the pike. Never met a man I didn't like. Thanks, guys. See ya. But don't go far now. Howdy. That was something, wasn't it? That's Mr. Ziegfeld's idea how to open a show. Anyway, I'm glad to see all you folks here today. Well, because Thursday night's my favorite show of the week. Now, I did not say that yesterday. Yesterday I said that Wednesday night was my favorite show. Now it occurs to me that most of you, when you hear the name Will Rogers, you just automatically reach for your pockets. In fact, I bet you're still half expecting the ushers to come down the aisles with those little cans, collect your loose change for the Will Rogers Hospital and Institute. That money does a whole lot of good, but you can relax. We won't be doing that tonight, mainly on account of we already got most of your money when you bought your ticket. Can you believe the price of theater tickets these days? When I saw what they were asking for this show, well, I thought they were still looking for investors. Which means we probably owe you something for it, so I better get to work. Now this little act with the rope is the same one I've been annoying audiences with all my life. Mr. Ziegfeld, too. Now he only put up with my little act to kill time while the girls are changing from nothing into nothing. Anyway, I was mighty surprised to hear from Mr. Ziegfeld after all these years, especially when he said it was time to do another one of his follies, seeing as how the last one he produced personally was over 65 years ago in 1931. But he said not to worry about the order of things, because the way he viewed my life was a whole lot more theatrical than the way I actually lived it. And he said not to worry because, well, he'd be looking down. Well, not from heaven, of course. Be mighty surprised if he ended up anywhere in that particular vicinity. He meant from the light booth, which is right back there. Right above where you folks in the back are sitting. Yeah, that's right. He can look through that glass window at any time and see how his show's moving along. So I guess I better move along. Oh, before I forget, there's someone real famous sitting right here in the audience I want to introduce you to. America's greatest aviator and fellow Oklahoman, Mr. Wiley Post. Stand up, Wiley. Anytime, partner. Now, Wiley was the first man to fly solo around the world. He did it in just under 8 days. Heck, you can almost get mail clear across town in that amount of time. Great seeing you, Wiley. Now, there's a lot of folks who say that spinning a rope ain't exactly respectable work. My father being one of them. But I don't see anything wrong with spinning a rope, as long as your neck's not in it. As a kid, I tied some knots, learned to make a loop, spun it horizontal to the ground, practiced lassoing the fence posts and most anything I found. I'd even rope my sisters if they dared to come around. This pastime was my solitary skill, and people asked, what will become of Will? So I told him, you give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, and he can hang himself or not. That is the choice that he has got. He may wind up hanging down from a tree, or he could spin himself alive. That's what happened to me. Give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope. You hand two guys a pile of dough, one spends it fast, one saves it slow. You make a choice, up to you what you do. Up to you what you do. This act ain't much, but through it I've met kings and queens, and I gotta meet you. Everybody spins with a different twist. Some use elbow grease, some just flick the wrist. If you want to go for a great big go for rope, just let her go. Never let them see that there's effort there. You may sweat inside or be debonair. If you go for tears or you go for jokes, shrug it off, it's nothing, folks. Give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope. It's good to set your sights up high, but don't expect pie in the sky. A guy might choose to run a bank.
A guy could choose to run a bank.
Another lives to till the soil.
Another lives to till the soil.
Or practice law or violin.
Or practice law or violin.
Or maybe sell banana oil.
Banana oil.
One builds a barn and writes a song.
Builds a barn, one writes a song.
One digs a ditch, one teaches school.
One digs a ditch, one teaches.
But from the day I came along, I've always been a roping fool.
He's just a roping fool.
Give a man enough rope, give a man enough rope, and he can get all tangled in the figure eights he tries to spin. But I've had luck, and my rope made me free. I spun my fancy figures, made my speeches, wrote my column, loved my horses, loved my family, spun a lovely life. That's what happened to me. Give a man enough rope. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Today's New York Times, Mr. Rogers.
Thanks. She does wonders for the circulation of the Times. Now, like I say, all I know is what I read in the papers. Now, it's a fact that the New York Times is the only paper in New York that has writing to go along with the pictures. My pa, he always liked the Times on account that they never used to clutter up his mind with 2 points of view. March 13th, 1997. Maybe it gets funnier on the inside. Cold weather chills tourist trade in Nice, France. Do you know why they pronounce that town Nice? It's because the French don't have a word for nice. Another Long Island housewife shoots husband. That's the third one in the past week. Season must have opened a month early this year. Now, it may sound funny, but these are the exact same things I read in the paper 60, 70 years ago. So maybe some of the stuff I said back then might make a little bit of sense today. Let's find out. Does anybody have a 60-year-old newspaper? Thank you. August 17th, 1935. Will Rogers and Wiley Post die in airplane crash in Alaska.
Sing on, hey, let's go flying.
Let's go flying, Will.
Wiley's still the greatest flyer in history, if you don't count that one time. Could you make it a 70-year-old newspaper?
Here's your 70-year-old newspaper, Mr. Rogers.
Thanks. February 27th, 1921. New Yugoslav Republic torn by ethnic strife. Anti-cigarette legislation pending in 42 states. President accused of philandering. You sure this is an old newspaper? President vows to trim excess fat in government. Our new president can do that real quick just by staying away from McDonald's. Another filibuster paralyzes Congress. How they love to talk. You know, the other day a congressman stood up and objected to a certain Oklahoma comedian poking fun at the Congress. The thing about my jokes is they don't hurt anyone. But with Congress, every time they make a law, it's a joke. And every time they make a joke, well, it's a law. Savings and loan vice president robbed. I thought it was a rule that crooks didn't rob crooks. You're doing just fine, folks. The show takes twice as long when I have to explain the jokes. You know, I never understood what the banks did with all those vice presidents they got. The United States only has one, and we still haven't found anything for them to do. All right, now this is the part of the show where Mr. Ziegfeld wants me to introduce someone very special. What? What? How much time do you need?
A minute.
A minute? Mama told me there'd be days like this. Thanks. Now, I know a small rope trick like this won't look like much. So you realize there's no such thing as a big rope trick. All right, now, this is the wedding ring. I guess that's the divorce. Now, this last one's a personal favorite of mine. Looks like I got all my feet through but one. Let's get serious here. Okay. Now this is the part of the show where Mr. Ziegfeld wants me to introduce someone very important. Important to me because without him, well, I wouldn't be up here right now. That's my pa, Mr. Clement P. Rogers. But first, let me set up the scene. Now, this is our little ranch in Oklahoma. And these, well, they're my 6 beautiful sisters. Now, the date is Tuesday, November 4th, 1879. The reason I remember it so good is, well, it's the day I was born.
Yippee! Yippee! I hit the old bullseye! Hooray, 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 I got me a boy. Yes, at last it's a boy. Step right up, it's a boy. I got a son and a heir. What else can compare? I haven't a care. I wanna sing hosannas. Hooray, hooray, although I love all my girls. 6 is plenty of girls. After all of those girls, I gave it one as a shot. Kept praying a lot. Now look what I got. I'm passing out Havanas. Yippee-yi-yay. To keep the shine on the family name. Yippee-yi-yay. His pa's a rancher, so he'll be the same. With cattle standing out yonder for miles around. That's why I'm passing the smokes and the smiles around. Hooray, 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 at last it's a male. And his powerful whale says he's hardy and hale. And he'll be proud as can be. He knows the need. His part Cherokee like his paw. My hope's no longer slim. I'm way out on a limb. Hopes are riding uphill. Cause he'll grow up to be a hell of a man. I'll make him a man, a hell of a man like yours truly. Hooray, hooray, hooray for my lucky star. Have a cigar, I'm jumping for joy. At last it's a boy. You gotta keep trying. At last it's a boy.
Now that I'm 13 years old, Paul, I got some bad news.
Oh, Lord, son. Don't tell me you were expelled from school again. You got to get yourself an education, boy, so you don't wind up in the Congress. Well, I sent you to 6 schools in the past 7 years, and you never made it past the 5th grade.
The other kids keep making fun of me, Paul. They call me a redskin.
You're not a redskin, Willie. You're an Injun. Our people didn't come over on the Mayflower. We met the boat. Just remember you this. I'm 3/8 of Cherokee, and your mom's 1/4.
I guess if I'd have finished 5th grade, I'd know just how much Cherokee that makes me.
Will, I want you to be proud of your Indian heritage. Now, do you remember in that old ranch house we had, that big picture on the wall of Custer's last stand?
Yeah?
Now, what was it about that picture that makes you the most proud?
being on the winning side.
Now that you're 19 years old, son, what are you going to do with your life?
I made up my mind, Paul. I'm going down to the Argentine to be a cowboy.
The Argentine? Well, I was counting on you sticking around here and helping me run this ranch.
You know it's not in me to run anything, Paul. Why can't I do with my life what I want to?
I reckon you will, son. But I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't try to make it as humanly difficult as possible. Quit twirling that damn rope while I'm talking to you. Now look, when your ma died, I promised her that I'd raise you properly. I'm getting ready to admit defeat. Sometimes I think the only reason for your birth was to give me something curious to look at in my old age. You're staying here, and that's fine.
I'm sorry, Paul. I'm going to Argentina.
And I say you're staying here to help me run this ranch.
I hate to tell you this, Paul, but I don't see how in the world you're going to stop me.
Me neither. All right. All right, Willie, you go to Argentina. But just remember this. When you've ruined your life and are down and out, without a friend in the world or a penny to your name, just remember this piece of fatherly advice. I told you so. Now get the hell out of here while I'm still in a good mood. All I can say is, a man's a fool if he thinks his son's going to come anywhere near the dreams his father had for him. Hooray, hooray, some dirty work has been done. He can't feel the real one, can't be Clem Rogers' son. He says he don't want a ranch, be some rotten branch. Must be part Comanche for sure. To Argentina he'll steam, what a crack-potted scheme. It's the end of my dream. Cause he will never be that hell of a man, a looked up to man, a hell of a man like yours truly. But what the Haiti, hey, I still got 6 girls, 6 million curls, I'm jumping for joy. Goodbye, Willie boy, and don't write for money. Goodbye, Willie boy.
Now, I'm sure my pa did everything in the world for me. He tried to make more out of me than I am. But how come amounting to something is always somebody else's idea of what you should do with your life? You know, it seems to me, the minute a man becomes a father, it's like he forgets everything he ever knew about being a son. So long, Pa, I'm on my way to see the world so big and wide. I might find something I can do and find the guy that's here inside. So long, Pa, I'm off today. I hope before my journey ends, I'll learn to do a trick or two, so you can brag to all your friends. So I'm off to Argentina, because there's a whole lot of people out there. Even back then I knew I wanted to meet as many of them as my time on earth would allow. Because people is what life's all about.
Just a moment, Mr. Rogers.
Yes, Mr. Ziegfeld?
Mr. Rogers, forgive me for interrupting you, but you've been out there for 2 seasons, and we still haven't met the girls. And
Right.
you should know, in the Ziegfeld show, the romance never starts later than the 3rd scene.
I told you folks this would happen. I know he sounds kind of bossy, but you got to remember what it was like to grow up in Chicago, the first name of Florence. Come to think of it, Mr. Ziegfeld, I did meet Betty Blake before I went away. It was at the railroad station. Betty was the prettiest, sweetest girl I'd ever met. She was working in the freight office, and I was expecting a pair of long underwear from out east for my trip to Argentina. You know the kind with the trap door in the back.
How very romantic. And where was this enchanted railroad station?
Ulaga, Oklahoma.
Oh, absolutely not, Mr. Rogers. In the Ziegfeld show, nothing ever happens in Ulaga. Stage manager, please.
Yes, Mr. Z?
Peter, have we got a set back there we could use? Something exotic, something Ziegfeldian?
Well, we've got that Fiji Island set, sir. And, sir, my name's not Peter.
Fiji Islands, Mr. Ziegfeld, you might as well say we met on the moon.
Brilliant, Mr. Rogers. You met your wife on the moon. Peter, go set up the moon immediately.
Yes, sir.
Well,
My
don't
name's
just stand there,
not
Mr.
Peter.
Rogers. You're going to meet your wife, Betty, on the moon.
Yes, sir.
Here I am, Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas, who's staying with my favorite single sister. On account I landed a really swell job, working in the freight office of the Missouri Pacific Railroad, here on the moon. But despite all those stories you hear about the man on the moon, I haven't met him yet.
Sing, Miss Blake.
I beg your pardon?
We've had quite enough exposition, Miss Blake. Sing, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ziegfeld. How small the earth seems, poor little planet, viewing it from a distance. Light years away, way off in a starlit place. Here I sit mooning on the moon of mooning, questioning my existence. Just a tiny speck alone in space. I'm drifting, I'm floating, a leaf in the wind, an aimless seedling sailing on the air. I'm empty, yet filled with some nameless feeling. I aim to come to rest somewhere in someone's arms, in someone's heart, some unknown, someone's life, somewhere. My hours are endless, my days have no shade, my nights are spent at moonlit solitaire. I'm busy, yet some wondrous thing is missing. I'm longing for, I don't know, but I know it must be there in someone's eyes, in someone's smile, a face I'll see someday, somewhere. I'm weary of drifting, a change hovers in the air, a sea
Excuse me, are you the station master?
I'm his assistant. Is there anything I can do for you? I said, is there anything I can do for you?
Did I happen to mention that I'm expecting a pair of long underwear on the 5 o'clock rocket?
So far, you hadn't happened to mention anything at all.
That's because I'm painfully shy. Once I let an entire barn burn down because I was too shy to yell fire.
By any chance, are you that shiftless Rogers boy I've heard so much about? Who lives on a ranch a few miles out and who spends most of your time spinning a rope, so how can you possibly amount to anything?
Well, I guess so.
Glad to meet you. I'm Betty Blake, a simple farm girl from Arkansas who's staying with my favorite single sister here.
Did you say single sister? So happens I've got a single sister too. 6 of them, in fact.
6 single sisters? Gosh, that's hard to say. You probably won't believe this, but I've got 6 single sisters myself.
Did you hear that, folks? 6 single sisters each. Now what more can 2 people have in common than that? I'll skip the next few lines as they don't amount to much and get right to the good part. Gosh, you're nice, Betty Blake. In fact, I bet you're the kind of girl that comes along once in a blue earth.
You seem like a pretty down-to-moon person yourself.
I'd sure like to hear you sing sometime.
Why, Will Rogers, how did you know I could sing?
Because in the Ziegfeld show, everyone who's dressed can sing. So how about it?
You mean sing right now?
No, how about my long underwear? Has it come in yet?
Oh, well, the 5 o'clock ought to be arriving any minute now.
Hello there.
Hello, Mr. Engineer. How was the trip?
Not too bad. Lost a little bit of time chugging around the Big Dipper, but I made it up along the Milky Way. Oh, I've got this package addressed to that shiftless Rogers boy who lives on a ranch a few miles out. Feels like long underwear.
Thank you.
So long, honey. Gotta blast off. See you in a light year or so. All aboard!
Will Rogers, your long underwear arrived.
Oh boy, can't wait to try them on.
I've got a better idea. Why don't we go for a walk along the edge of the Sea of Tranquility? I hear there's going to be a full Earth tonight.
Well, I'd love to, Betty Blake, just as soon as I get back from Argentina.
Argentina?
Well, that's where I've decided to seek my fortune. I shall only be gone about a year or so, but when I come back, if you're still single like your 6 sisters, I'd love to take that walk. So long, Betty Blake. Promise to write.
Adios. Adios very much. I'm weary of drifting, a change of us in the air, a sea change, a sky change. I feel that it's almost there. My journey's end. Love a friend, my shiftless someone in Argentina.
All right. So he wouldn't finish his education. He didn't want to be a rancher. And he ran out of me just when I needed him the most. Did he have to turn me into the grouchy old grump of this show? This role of clown is all frustration mixed with rage. Unsympathetic roles can sink you on the stage. So just stick with me till my warmth comes shining through. I don't get lovable till somewhere in Act 2.
I've been asked to deliver a postcard to Miss Betty Blake. Miss Betty Blake, there's a postcard for you from Will Rogers.
Thank you. Dear Blake, here I am in South Africa. South Africa?
He didn't like Argentina.
Oh, thank you. Came here on a cattle boat and I got seasick. In fact, I was so sick that even the cows couldn't bear to watch. Do you mind? When I got here, I found a job spinning a rope in Texas Jack's Wild West show. What are you doing?
Practicing. I'm your understudy.
Oh, well, we aren't exactly the same type. Why do you think they picked you?
I'm Mr. Ziegfeld's type, honey.
Oh. Anyway, now I've got some really great news. After being gone for almost a year, Texas Jack has decided to bring the whole show back to the US of A, as he's booked us in the St. Louis World's Fair. He's coming back. Isn't that wonderful? We have to play Australia and New Zealand on the way back, so if you're counting the days like I am, the exact number is 642. 642? Will Rogers, I am not wasting my youth on some shiftless, uneducated, rope-throwing, no-account, Cherokee, show business cowboy. No, sir, not this simple farm girl from Arkansas.
Excuse me, honey. You want those 642 days to pass just like that?
Well, of course.
Then you just leave it to me. Here. Take this. Ladies and gentlemen. Well, don't just stand there, honey. Go make your change. Ladies and gentlemen, by special arrangement with Mr. Ziegfeld, that pussy cat. It is now 642 days later, and the St. Louis World's Fair of 1904 presents, inside and in person, genuine cowboys and Indians displaying their incredible skill and mastery of the untamed broncos and mustangs of the great American prairie. Direct from their triumphal world tour, Texas Jack Mulhall's spectacular Wild West Show!
Cora, Anna, Wadey, Theda, Virginia, Zulecki, I'm sorry to have dragged you girls out of Texas Jack's Wild West show featuring Will Rogers, the Cherokee Kid. But I simply couldn't bear to watch a minute longer because I don't consider the show business a respectable place for a grown man to earn his living. A respectable place for a grown man to earn his living. I've waited almost 3 years to see Will Rogers, and I'm not going to wait a minute longer, because just as soon as I get him to quit the show business, that's when I'm going to marry him.
Oh, Betty, that's wonderful. Has he asked you yet?
Well, that depends on what you call asking.
We call asking.
In that case, not yet. So you girls are going to have to run along and see Mr. Edison's amazing Hall of Electricity. And I'm going to wait right here by the stage door to see Will Rogers. And maybe we can settle this business once and for all.
Hooray, 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 we come to the fair, it's the St. Louis Fair, and we're thrilled to be there. The year is 1904, and yes, we've seen us before. Will Rogers' sisters before, but what our bodies got for. Now we're very late, 6 single sisters, but we don't get a praise anymore.
Hello, girls.
That's Will. Hi, Will. Hi, Will. Hello, Will. Hi, Will. Howdy, Will.
later, I'd swear those were my 6 sisters. Betty Blake, it really is you. When I saw you sitting in the audience, I nearly fell off my horse. What'd you think of the show?
It was just about the most disgusting spectacle I've ever witnessed.
You mean my roping act?
Oh no, your act was wonderful. But do you have to do it with all those people watching?
Betty, are you talking about the audience?
To stand up there in front of total strangers. Will Rogers, where is your shame?
Now, folks, how can you not love someone like that? So I explained to Betty Blake that I could not make money by doing the act just in front of my friends and family. And after engaging in a little small talk that's too sappy to repeat here, we found ourselves looking down at St. Louis from the top of the Ferris wheel.
Oh look, Will, you can see all the way to Illinois.
I bet you had your share of fellas while I was gone.
There were a few, but only one you had to worry about.
Yeah, and who's that?
Ben Harvey. He's a promising lawyer.
What'd he promise you, Blake?
A life that has nothing whatsoever to do with show business.
Now, hold on a minute. What's so wrong with what I do? I'm happy when I'm up there in front of those people, and I know I'm making them happy. So don't go get your hopes up about reforming me, because when you marry me, you're going to get exactly what you saw on that stage tonight, including the audience, and nothing more.
Will Rogers, whoever said anything about marrying you?
Well, I did. Just now. Is it a deal or not?
It's a deal.
Let's shake on it. We're heading for a wedding. It's gonna happen soon. Our hearts are intending to reach the happy ending that started on the moon.
Mr. Rogers. Just a moment, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, stop! Mr. Rogers, what is going on down there?
A wedding, of course. What's it look like?
But not now, Mr. Rogers. In a Ziegfeld show, the wedding always ends the act. Move it along, Mr. Rogers. What happens next?
Right, next. I'm sorry, folks. We'll be seeing y'all later at the end of the act. Next. After we were married, kissed the bride, organ started playing Oh Promise Me. Oh, I went and promised her.
Oh, Will, do you really mean it? Are you really through playing those dreadful Wild West shows?
I sure am.
Thank you, Will.
From now on, it's strictly vaudeville.
Vaudeville?
Come on, Blake, you're gonna have the time of your life. Hand in hand we will cross the land from the west coast way up to Maine. Boarding train after train. See the nation a long vacation. What's to fear, we're together here, but my dear, before we can go, vaudeville has traditions my young wife ought to know. There's the small time and the medium time and the big time and the medium small time.
Small time and the medium time and the big time.
And Kiwanis whole time, big time, looks down on medium time.
Looks down on small time.
Looks down accordion players, small time. Big, small, medium time, on the road from Maine to Dallas, hoping that we'll let out smiles from you or a rave review. Put a big time star on my door. I can hear the crowds roar. Spotlight hits me, the spotlight fits me. When you touch me and when you hold me, we're can be. Just to know that you love me is the big I got a third show to do, Blake. But I'll meet you at the Mexican restaurant later.
Break a neck.
Leg.
Leg. Right. There's a small time and medium time and the big time and the medium small time. Packing, unpacking, and packing. We're off to Altoona tomorrow. Goodbye, Altoona. Cooking, scrubbing, washing, ironing, making fruits, smoothies, ponies, learn to live on cold roadies. Miles from him, beg my senses slip. I get big time feeling inside. Once an ignorant bride, now I'm knowing and all glowing. When he holds me and when he loves me, we're close as lovers can be. On the circuit together, life is joyous and free. Thank goodness we have no family. There's only Will and me.
Howdy, I'm Will Rogers Jr. Howdy, I'm Mary Rogers. I'm James Rogers. Howdy, well here comes Teddy. We're glad our dad's in vaudeville, and we got fun. 'Cause we've been down in any town, not just in one. Before we're full of history, we gotta run. There's no needle school superintendent hounding us 'cause we're independent. At night our mommy reads to us and hears us pray. Then we sleep to the music hall, watch Daddy play. Stretch your skull, tilt your head, make the people move. Folks ask us what we wanna be, and we grow up we're gonna be just like Dad.
Rogers and Rogers and Rogers, 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 Rogers. No more small time for us. Rogers and Rogers and Rogers, 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 Rogers. It's the big time for
Will, I wanted them to do their homework now, so that someone in this family could get past the 5th grade.
Think of the geography lesson they're getting, Blake. They've been all over the country. Have you folks ever noticed that I call my wife Blake when I'm in trouble? So I started calling her Blake all the time in case I wasn't in trouble and didn't know it.
Will, we have to talk.
Beautiful
sorry.
Erlanger Theater presents the star of our show, that Oklahoma philosopher, Will Rogers.
I got a show to do.
Will, we have to talk. When I was very young, I had a perfect life. My pa, the perfect husband, and my ma, the perfect wife. And every day my life went by so perfectly. I made some perfect plans, I dreamed some perfect dreams. But now I look around, those dreams are splitting at the seams. I make one big decision and now look at me. When I do something wrong, I do it perfectly. My big mistake, roping in. I got my wish, now I can't win. I thought once I caught you, you'd quit your roaming. But I'm the one who's caught in a world I'm not at home in. Oh, it's you again. Little Miss Understudy. Well, you can relax, because I'm feeling just fine. And the name's Rogers now. Betty Rogers. I'm married.
But Mr. Ziegfeld says that the wedding always ends the act.
I know. Don't tell him. But we saw Justice of the Peace 7 years ago in Buffalo. You won't tell Mr. Rogers Ziegfeld, will you?
Don't worry, honey. Your secret's safe with me. Not.
Hello? Zulecki, is that you? How are you and the other girls? Still single? How am I? Oh, I'm fine. You should see the deluxe hotels we stay at. And the fancy restaurants we eat in here and wherever we are. How are the children? Oh, they love it almost as much as I do. When are we coming home? I'm not sure, Zulecki. When you're having the time of your life like we are, it's kind of hard to tear yourself away. Yes, tell the girls I miss them. I love you too. Bye.
Blake?
Oh, Will, I didn't see you.
You know, I was thinking during the show tonight, how long we've been at this? 6, 7 years? Maybe my pa was right. Maybe we should have stayed in Oklahoma.
Will, are you serious?
Sure am. Where I'm going is nowhere. Oklahoma's as good as nowhere any day.
But you're top of the bill now.
Top of the bill is Cedar Rapids. Still only making $100 a week. Now maybe a guy has a right to go on fooling himself, but not when he's got a wife and family.
But Will.
I don't care how much you love the life, Blake. My mind's made up. Now what was it you wanted to talk to me about?
I love you so much, Will. But are you really sure?
Of course. If my big break was going to come along, it would have been here by now.
Telegram for Mr. Will Rogers. Are you Will Rogers, that roping fool?
Nope. As of right now, just Will Rogers.
Mr. Will Rogers, Fox Theater, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dear Mr. Rogers, pleased to invite you to the 9th edition of My Follies, starring W.C. Field, Eddie Cantor, and Ed Wynn. Stop. Can offer you a salary of $600 a week. Stop. Expecting an immediate and affirmative reply. Most sincerely, Lawrence Ziegfeld.
What is it, Will? Not bad news. Your father's not sick again, is he?
No, it's just another booking. Go get the kids and pack up. We can be back on the ranch by Sunday night.
You'll never regret this, Will. I mean, giving up a 5 a day in Cedar Rapids is not like, say, giving up the Ziegfeld Follies. I mean, who in his right mind would give up the Follies? But why talk about that? Who in his right mind would offer you the Follies?
Being a great sport, Blake. But I don't think those folks in New York will put up with my little act with the rope.
It's not a little act anymore, Will. Not since that day back in Milwaukee, when you got all tangled up in the Texas skip and you ad-libbed that line. Heck, folks, looks like I got all my feet through but one.
Get out of here.
You're a talker now, Will. Mr. Ziegfeld doesn't pay $600 a week for a few rope tricks, and you give him a new show every night. All I know is what I read in the papers. There's not another act like yours anywhere on the circuit. And that's why we're asking for $700.
Blake, I love you so much.
It's follies, and there's no other choice I'd make. I love learning this song.
Howdy. Don't catch cold now. You know, Mr. Ziegfeld spends millions of dollars on the girls' costumes, so I don't see why he don't let them wear them. Anyway, I'm glad all you folks could make it out today on my anniversary. This marks my 2,500 consecutive performance at the Follies. A lot of things have happened in the past 6 years. The Lord lost 3 very important men. Teddy Roosevelt, Tsar Nicholas of Russia, and my pa, Clem V. Rogers. Now, you might find it funny, but the 3 of them had something in common. That's right, not one of them ever caught my act. Now, I got an important announcement to make. This marks my final appearance in the Follies. Tomorrow I'm off to Hollywood to be a screen actor. And I'll be flying out there by airplane.
Be careful, Will.
Well, I won't be doing the flying. I'll leave it to those who know how, like Wiley Post.
Take off, and let's go flying.
Let's go flying, Will.
How come you're always here, Wiley?
I'm waiting for you, Will. You promised you'd fly up to Alaska with me.
Well, that don't come to damn the act, Wiley. Never seen a guy so anxious to break his own neck. And mine, too. So like I said, I'm off to Hollywood to be an actor. It's a shame that my pa never got a chance to see me on the screen, though. Like he used to say, an actor's ego is the only thing that keeps growing without nourishment. Oh, and another thing I thought I'd try my hand at is that new device we got called radio.
Well, that'll be an improvement. At least I won't be able to see you.
What are you doing here, Pa? Told him he died 6 years ago.
So did some of your jokes, but they're still hanging around.
Where'd you get the wings? The wardrobe?
Hell no, they're real.
Well, do they work?
No, they got higher on NyQuil.
I was just telling the folks. What a shame it was you never caught my act.
Act? What act?
You know what I do, Pa. I'm the star of this show.
Not as far as I'm concerned. Hello, ladies.
Pa, you're dead.
Yeah, but they're not. What is it you were saying, Willie?
You ought to be proud of my success instead of running me down all the time.
Proud?
Yeah. You know what I do? I make people laugh. Just ask the audience. They like me.
What do they know? They like Hootie and the Blowfish. Now listen to me, Willie.
Mr. Rogers,
Yeah?
It means me, Pa.
Oh.
Mr. Rogers, what the devil's going on down there? I'm paying you to do a show.
Well, you better get going now. Pa.
Listen to me, Willie. I know I wanted you to be a rancher like me. But I knew that if it wasn't in you, you could have been a doctor or an inventor. Someone who makes a difference. Because that's what being great is, son. Leaving the world different from the way you found it.
Well, it's great to be great, Pa. But it's greater to be human.
Don't you want to be great, son?
No man's great if he thinks he is, Pa.
Who said that?
Well, I did.
Yeah? Well, that ain't half bad. What's going on?
Sounds like a wedding. This must be the end of Act 1.
I should be getting out. Just remember this, son. Life's not as long as you think it is. You want to do something that you can look back on and that we can both be proud of. Take it from me. It's not as long as you think it is. Take it from me.
Blake, you look beautiful. We're heading for a wedding. Wedding number 2. I loved it the first time. How could it be a worse time as long as it's with you? Marry me now. Marry me then. I don't care how or where, why or when. Anytime you ask me, I'll rush to the altar. Won't even falter. The days and my nights, like Turkish delights, marrying, marrying you.
I got you for the second time. I got you, it's a second sight. I got you, double ecstasy. I got you, twice as wise as I sound. To the outer outside, oh, I feel twice as bright, oh. No shy violet, let's live life. I got you, one for all enough. I got you, once is not enough. I got you, I got you, so my life for I'm running with heaven, till coming at seven. I'm in without you. We're heading for a wedding that happened years ago. We've tasted wedding bliss now, so let's just steal a kiss now, as if we didn't know.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in this hallowed hall to unite two people in the bonds of holy. I'm playing this part under protest, Sonny. Mr. Ziegfeld was too stingy to hire another actor. To you, Betty Blake, take this no account to be your lawful wedded husband. Even though some folks think he's going to be America's biggest star, which means he won't be spending a whole lot of time at home, for richer or for poor, for better or for worse.
I do.
And to you, William Penn Adair Rogers, take this saintly woman who deserves better to be your lawful wedded wife, even though she'll never stop trying to keep you from flying to Alaska with Wiley Post till death do you part.
Yup.
That by the power vested in me by Mr. Ziegfeld, cheapskate, I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride, Miss Sonny.
Like the fire, years and
see y'all can make it back. Hope you had a good rest during intermission. I know that I did. But if any of you took a smoke while you're out there, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. As far as I can tell, the only good thing about smoking is that it keeps the mosquitoes away. Which proves that mosquitoes sure are a lot smarter than human beings are. Now, a lot of things happened while you ladies were out there in line. We went through 3 presidents. Mr. Harding, Mr. Coolidge, and Mr. Hoover. All of them Republicans. But you Democrats don't have to worry, because we can't stand having Republicans in the White House for more than 12 years at a time. Now, we also had that monkey trial down in Tennessee. You know, the one where they tried to prove that man descended from the apes. But I never bought into that, because I have yet to meet an ape that is devious, heartless, or greedy. I just figured man descended from lawyers. Now, like I say, all I know is what I read in the papers. What I've been reading here lately is this word ecology, which means, as far as I can tell, our land. Now, the pilgrims, or pioneers, sorry, who didn't know any better, they cut down all the trees in the forest and never did plant one. And they plowed up all the land, which was supposed to be left to grass as God intended. Now, they thought it was the land they were living off, but what they were really living off was future generations. The funny thing about land is, well, they're not making the stuff anymore. Thank you. Look around, the world's a lovely sight, lovely sky and sea, well it used to be. Look around, the world is shining bright, watch the green grass grow where it once was so. Where's the spring that loved the rain? Where's the grove down Lover's Lane? Look around, they vanish overnight. Where's the lovely world I used to see? Close the open skies of you, clear to the horizon. Look around, they disappear from sight. And when I recall what used to be, I'm weeping like a weeping willow tree. Look around, you'll see a memory. Glad I got that off my chest. Now, I suppose you folks are wondering how it was that I came to run for president of the United States of America. Well, it was the spring of 1928 when this really distinguished-looking fella came to visit me right in the Astor Hotel in New York.
Mr. Rogers, have you ever considered running for president of the United States?
That's the fella. Now, everything you're about to hear is the gospel truth, so help me a Ziegfeld.
Mr. Rogers, now that you're back on top as the #1 box office star of the stage, screen, radio, and newspapers, wouldn't you like to try for president?
I don't know. Politics is the only branch of show business I ain't tried yet.
This country needs you, Mr. Rogers.
Well, the United States might be used to having anything at all named as a presidential candidate, but they haven't yet sunk to the professional actor stage. That's what I said in 1928, folks.
Would you mind telling me what political party you belong to?
Well, I'm not a member of any organized party. I'm a Democrat. Debunk.
Exactly. Mr. Rogers, you've been invited to speak at the Republican convention in Kansas City, and you've also been invited to speak at the Democratic convention in Houston.
Oh, great, the Democrats. They always have so much more fun at their conventions because they know they're not going anywhere afterwards. Well, still here late.
Mr. Rogers, as the only candidate in history who's ever been invited to speak at both conventions in the same year, you could ask them directly to vote for you.
Now, have you folks ever heard anything so nonsensical in all your life? Why, a guy'd have to be plumb loco to give up a useful job in anything to go into politics.
So, will you run for president or not, Mr. Rogers?
I sure will. Democrats and Republicans, I'm asking for your votes. I've got this debunked party with some new ideas to vote. Don't ask me what my platform is, I leave that stuff alone. Cause no one keeps their promises as history has shown. I'll run a clean campaign and that'll be my winning card. Considering the kind you've had, well that won't be too hard.
Mr. Chairman, a great silver state of Oklahoma, like one sweet by activation, we proudly place your nomination. The great silver state of Oklahoma, cast its 22-1. William Penn and Deron, William Penn and Deron, William Penn and Deron.
Now, for those of you who bothered to study history, you might recall that I was not elected president. I did, however, carry one state, namely the District of Columbia, which, as it turns out, isn't any kind of state at all. But I took it as quite a personal compliment, since whoever gets elected to the presidency, it's those folks in Washington that got to put up with him for the next 4 years. But I have some advice for any of you that are considering running for an American election. Don't go around telling the truth. Because in an American election, nothing hurts you more than telling the truth. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. Right. Now, this is the part of the show Mr. Ziegfeld likes to call Trouble in Paradise. Only in this case, paradise was Hollywood, California. Guess we were pretty rich by now. We had our own polo field, and our little ranch house had 22 rooms. And the trouble was, because of my job, I wasn't getting to spend as much time with the family as I'd like. Now, this is the part of the show where the leading lady sings a torch song atop a piano, singing about all her troubles.
Alone again and blue. He's left me alone again. What's new? All I do is sit and stare at a snapshot and an empty chair. What good's a man who's never there? He's a traveling man, he's a flying man, after dinner speaker, speech and flying man. He's a one-man show on the radio. He's a columnist, friend of president, movie star for all the nation's resident, Ziegfeld starring man, walking, talking man, Mr. Busy Bee. There's no man left for me. Sometimes I tell myself the world's turning. I'll pack a bag and leave him flat. But every time I start, this feeling floods my heart. He needs me to feed the cat. And when I'm by myself, I'm so lonesome. A party makes it twice as grim. The people laugh and play, but 9 miles away. It's all on the road with him. Hotel staying man, suitcase packing man. When I look around me, he's a lacking man. He's most anywhere, land or sea or air. As an absentee, he's a winner man, out to lunch and won't be home for dinner man. The looping man, fly the cooping man. It's so plain to see. He won't miss me, he don't need me. Gonna get away from Mr. Busy Bee. I can't make love to a shadow, and there's no man left for me. Thank you, Hastings. I feel much better now.
Thank you, madam. Look what he's got me doing now. Will there be anything else, madam?
No, thank you, Hastings. Hastings, where are the children?
Oh, they're off stage, madam, waiting for their entrance music.
Hello, Blake.
Hello, stranger.
Uh-oh. I decided I had better spend a few minutes reacquainting myself with the children. Incidentally, a lot of folks ask me how come they never get any bigger. So I tell them, of course they get bigger. But in order to prove that fact, we need another set of children. And Mr. Ziegfeld says 4 of them's enough to do any show. Oh, by the way, there should only be 3 of you by now. Sorry, little Freddie here died of the diphtheria epidemic in 1920. You're gonna have to run along now, son.
We'll have to pause for he gets to stay in the show.
Well, you got me there. All right, you can stay. But you're gonna have to run along, because your mom and I have something important to talk about, and there's no use pretending I don't know what it is. How bad is it, Blake?
Pretty bad. The last time you were home, you couldn't even remember where the bathroom was.
It's a big house, Blake.
Even bigger without you in it. Will, why do you keep traveling? What are you looking for?
People. I can't get enough of them, Blake. No matter how different we look and talk, we're all basically the same, and we all want the same things. 3 meals a day and a decent night's sleep.
We're people too, Will, and all we want's more of you.
Does that mean you don't want the presents I brought for you?
What presents?
Well, I got them waiting outside, but here's a small sample. It's the world's most famous amethyst. I got it off a statue of a goddess in Ceylon, but I figured it'd look better on you.
Oh, Will, this must have cost a fortune. You shouldn't have spent so much money.
Isn't life funny? Got a wife telling me not to spend what my pa told me I'd never make.
I want you to take it back.
Back? To Ceylon? Okay.
Will Rogers, get back here. Okay, I'll keep it, but I just can't believe we're this rich.
Haven't you read the papers lately? The whole country's rich. Prosperity has arrived. Well, haven't you heard President Cooper's been saying? 2 chickens in every pot, 2 cars in every garage, 2 mortgages on every house, 2 hearts in 3/4 time. Just sit back and enjoy it. We've been through so much together, dark torrential weather. We've managed to muddle through every muddy puddle. Old soul would never shine, still you kept your hand in mine. Now comes the sun. Why run? Oh, stick with me, baby. Let's kick up our heels. Taste the best of it, sniff the rest of it, feel how luxury feels. Take the fruits of our labor and splurge to the hilt. We deserve to be blooming before we must wilt. Where's the gold in the good life if we're knee-deep in guilt? Listen, honey, it's only money. Diamonds for Mrs. Rogers. They shine so bright like the light in your eyes. Rubies for Mrs. Rogers, not like the rhinestones you once got from other guys. Sapphires so blue and brilliant, they all combine to make your gems red, white, and blue. With all the jewels above, I'm saluting our love. I'm true blue to the flag and true to you. Emerald for Mrs. Rogers, 'cause I turn green when you don't look my way. Topaz, not quite as precious. Perhaps Madame could wear them on some rainy day. On some rainy day. Pearls for Mrs. Rogers.
Mrs. Rogers.
Grace the neckline of the queen who rules my heart. Rare as the jewels above, we were fashioned for love. You are nature's perfect living work of art.
Perfect work of art.
are you doing with those costumes? Stop it! Stop it at once, do you hear me? Peter, come out on stage immediately.
Yes, Mr. Z?
What are those people doing, Peter?
I'm sorry, Mr. Z, we're shutting down. And sir...
Shutting down? I didn't order anyone to shut down.
I know, but there's a depression going on. There's been a general economic collapse because of the stock market.
Outside, maybe, but not in here. This is the Follies, Peter. I don't allow any depression in here.
I'm sorry, sir. We've run out of money. We can't afford to meet our payroll. Everybody here is out of work. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
Mr. Ziegfeld. Mr. Ziegfeld, what about me? Mr. Ziegfeld?
Will, does this mean we're poor again?
No, not us. A whole lot of folks, but not us.
Why not us, Will?
Well, maybe it's because I'm in the cheering up business, and right now, business has never been better. But I don't feel right about it, Blake. How can I face all those folks who lost everything? What can I say to them?
Do you remember something you said to me a long time ago? A man makes a living by what he gets. He makes a life by what he gives.
But what can I give them now?
What do you mean? For the past few years, you've done benefits for flood relief, drought relief, famine relief. What more can one man do?
The president wants me to go on after his speech tonight to try and cheer folks up. I don't know what to tell them.
Tell them what you've always told them, Will. The truth.
Mr. Hoover wanted somebody to follow him who could cheer you folks up. He must have been pretty desperate if he had to ask a Democrat. The real question is, who's going to cheer me up? Because all I know is what I see on the street corners. What I see tonight, people without jobs, without homes, without food. Now these are our people, American people. I hear tell that 16 million souls are unemployed. It's a full third of the workforce. Now these people are asking for our help. They're not asking for charity, they're asking for a job. The next best thing we can do is see to it that they have food and the necessities of life. We got the money. Because there's as much money as there ever was, only fewer people have it. Man can make $1 million overnight. It's on the front page in the morning. It never tells who gave that million up. Now, you can't get money without taking it from someplace else. So I don't suppose there's not one of us who has anything now, does no part of it to those who need it now. And I don't suppose there's not one hungry man or homeless man who hasn't somehow contributed to the wealth of every millionaire in America. But it wasn't the working man who brought this thing on us at all. No, it was the big boys. They thought this financial drunk was going to last forever. So they overspent and over-merged, they over-capitalized, and over just about everything else. And that's the fix we're in now. People are starving. America, can you hear that? Here in this country with more wheat and more corn and more food than anywhere else in the world, we got people starving. No country ever had more. No country ever had less. Well, 10 million could buy the world. 10 million can't buy enough to eat. We hold the distinction of being the only nation on the face of the earth to go to the poorhouse in the automobile. So it's up to us, to every one of us who doesn't go to bed hungry at night. See that no one else does either. Now you think the big men would understand that. Maybe try to get a better distribution of things, because if they don't, They're not big men. That's all there is to it. Where are all the big men now? Well, we sure could use one. I can't say any more about it than that.
Well, that's the sorriest looking sight I ever saw.
Hello, Paul.
What's the matter with you, boy? You're standing there like a moat.
People are in trouble, Paul. Real trouble. And all I ever did about it was tell jokes. Looks like I run out of those.
Those weren't jokes you were telling, Sonny.
So you've been telling me, Paul.
I don't know what the hell they were, but they sure made people feel better. Look, Willie, there was a feller back on the ranch. An Indian, of course. But he always used to say, the smartest people in the world are the ones who answer questions the rest of us weren't smart enough to ask. I figured that's kind of what you've been doing.
What good did it do?
I don't know. Maybe none at all.
But you always said I had to leave things different than I found them.
I know what I said, boy. But there's one thing I've learned from where I sit today. It takes time to judge the true worth of a man. Someone who looks awful big today could wind up being a joke in the history books. Take it from me, Sonny. People are going to forget the names of senators, judges, millionaires, even presidents. Heck, I only found out about Franklin Pierce last week. But I wouldn't be surprised if sometime down the pike, they might remember you.
Franklin Pierce was president.
So they say. Right between Fillmore and Buchanan.
Never heard of them either.
See, that's what I'm talking about. But you're different. Because you never quit telling people what damn fools they were. And since you're too simple to have any malice in you, you made them love every minute of it. Now I'm going to tell you a joke, son. Seems this ugly old sinner comes up to the pearly gates, St. Peter's season, and says, I'm sorry, your name's not on the list. So the old sinner thinks a minute and says, but I'm Will Rogers' father. So St. Peter turns around and says, why the hell didn't you say so? I'm saying so now, son. I'm proud of you. Well, aren't you going to thank me?
For what?
For your success.
My success?
Hell yes. It proves that there's a whole lot more of me and you than both of us ever suspected.
Let's go flying, Will.
That you, Wiley?
Bye, Willie. I'll be seeing you soon, I expect.
What do you mean, Paul?
Let's go, Will.
You talking about Alaska, Wiley?
I'm afraid so.
But I'm not ready.
No one ever is, son.
I just need a little more time.
Don't fight, son.
Paul,
Let's go, Will.
I need a little more time, Wiley.
I'll be waiting for you at the airfield.
You know, I don't know why we're afraid to go. Maybe it's because we're afraid we haven't done anything that'll live on after we're gone.
Do you have to go?
I guess so.
But why?
Because I win.
Will Rogers, if anything happens to you, if you get yourself killed,
What do you do, Blake?
I'll never speak to you again. Without you, I'm a nameless face. Without you, I'm the lowest rung. Without you, lost in no man's land. Without you, I'm a song unsung.
We'd just taken off from a lagoon in Alaska when I noticed the plane wasn't doing exactly what Wiley promised, namely fly. We're going down, Wiley, I said as calmly under the circumstances. Hell, Will, says Wiley. No one stays up forever. Old Wiley was right a lot of the time. With that plane going down and the law of gravity being the only law the man ain't broke yet, decided to go right along with it. The newspapers must have been pretty hard up for weekend news. They gave us 4 pages on Saturday and another 4 on Sunday. Which put us right up there with the other big crash. You know, the one on Hall Street. Not bad for a one-eyed flyer and a half-breed rope spinner.
The accident occurred on August 15, 1935, 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle near Point Barrow, Alaska.
Colonel Charles A. Lindbergh took personal charge of bringing the bodies home.
Lucky Lindy'd always been a personal favorite of mine. He was the first man to prove you could get the entire front page of a paper without killing anyone.
On August 22nd, the last rites were held in Los Angeles, California. 50,000 people filed by the casket. President and Mrs. Roosevelt sent an expression of grief.
You know, a funeral is a funny thing. It's a chance for people to say all the nice things to you that they didn't want you to hear when you were alive.
He was only 55 years old.
Well, the way I see it, long life ruined a lot more reputations than it ever helped.
In Washington, both houses of Congress observed a minute of silence.
Well, I know a minute don't sound like much, so you realize whose mouths are being shut.
Blacks around the country flew at half-mast.
The nation's motion picture theaters went dark.
Both NBC and CBS went off the air for a full half hour. In the media, radio, motion pictures, and newspaper syndication, Will Rogers reached more people around the world than anyone in history before.
Well, that's because most of those inventions didn't come along till I did. Kind of glad I missed television, though. I would have hated to cheat people out of reading a good book.
In New York, airplanes from the Army Air Corps flew in formation over the city.
Each plane had a long black streamer behind it.
Well, I loved airplanes. Never missed a chance to fly in one. It's a shame I could never get my pa to fly, though. But like he used to say, if God had meant for man to fly, he wouldn't have made the ground so damn hard.
Will Rogers traveled to 6 different continents and met almost every king and head of state on the earth. Not since Abraham Lincoln had the death of an American touched so many people.
He told us the truth and made us laugh at it.
People are always asking me what it was like being married to a national monument. But of course, I never saw him that way, because national monuments do not his back.
When he was in Washington, he stayed in the White House.
When he was home, he was the best husband in the world.
You know, ever since I moved out to Hollywood, I was something of a curiosity. You see, I was the only man in the motion picture business to end with the same wife I started out with. That's mainly because from the minute I met Betty Blake, there's not been a moment in my life that I did not love her with all my heart. Now, I know I wasn't easy to be married to. Betty used to say her only competition was everyone in the world. But I told her I didn't love everyone in the world, just merely liked them. I guess I must have met a whole lot of people in my lifetime. I always tried to approach them the same way my Indian ancestors did. You see, an Indian always looks back after he passes something to get a good look at both sides. A white man don't do that. He just automatically sees an object and thinks all sides are the same. Now that's why you must never judge a man while you're facing him. You gotta go around behind him and see what he's looking at. Then Then you have a whole new perspective of who you are. And you'll have a whole new lookout on the rest of the people. Never met a man I didn't like. Highfalutin gent or Bowery Bum. Yes, I've come a long way down the pike. Never met a man I didn't like. Never shook a hand I didn't like. Royal Prince of Wales or Working Joe, though I know life's one long rocky hike. Never met a man I didn't like. In all my wandering, I ran into all kinds of people. Fancy cinema stars, fake evangelists, politicians, morticians, and I have reached the conclusion while hiking the pike. Though I try and I try, never once met a guy that I didn't like. Said I roamed along the Napa Valley, Schubert Alley, Rue de la Paz, Oklahoma, and Kalamazoo. And I have reached the conclusion thank all you folks for coming out tonight. I sure enjoyed your company. If any of you are driving around tonight, I hope you don't get stuck in any traffic. So why they call it traffic when it ain't moving, I don't know. And if any of you are going out tonight, just a little bit of advice, the bars in Indiana close at 3 a.m. But if you can't get drunk by 3 a.m., you ain't really trying. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a really great life. And the best way I can tell you to do that is live it in such a way that you wouldn't be embarrassed to have Mr. Ziegfeld do a show about you. Thank you and good night.